Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. We make Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast, and we've got something very exciting to share with you. We have a new service that's being launched, and it's called Spoken Stories.
Spoken Stories is all about recording the voices and memories of your loved ones in outstanding quality, so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. For example, you know the story that Grandma tells that everyone in the family has heard before. Well, Spoken Stories is about getting those stories down and preserving them for your family history. Spoken Stories is about gifting someone the time to capture these personalities and unique voices.
We record your loved ones' tales, whether it's their whole life story so far or something more specific like a life-changing event. It is a gorgeous experience, and what you're left with is a beautiful monologue that really captures the essence of that person.
Think of it like an audio portrait, and take a listen to a snippet of this one from Diane's spoken story, recorded in her beautiful garden.
I was born in 1951 at Newmarket, and unfortunately I didn't see Mum for a year. I was looked after by a lovely nurse called Diane, my name, because my mum had TB when I was born. And so my mother never worked because with her problem with her, lungs, she had to go and have it sort of pumped up every so often. She used to do a lot of dressmaking, so she always made our clothes years ago. But yeah, she was a lovely mum, yeah, and Dad as well, yeah. That's very nice childhood I had, yeah, very nice. Yeah. I got married February the 16th, 1974. The weather was gorgeous. I ended up putting a big sort of T-shirt under my wedding dress I didn't need. I had a lovely one of those transparent umbrellas in case it rained, and it was just a beautiful day. I think I'm always sort of quite cheerful. I mean, if I go down the Luke and deliver some eggs to somebody, I'll meet somebody and chat, and then Paul say, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been chatting to people." That's just my way. That's just how I am. We've always lived here. We had this built in 1974. They put the footings down in February and we moved in the August. Years ago, I used to go around the village on a bike, and when I had Ian, he'd sit on the back. We live in a lovely area. We've got lovely neighbours. They help us all out, which you all do with neighbours, and that's very, very nice. And as I said to Paul, I'm hoping we can keep this place on until, well, I don't want to move from here until I go out in a brown box. I hope that's not too soon.
If you'd like more information about Spoken Stories and to take advantage of our special introductory offer, you can head to www.soundyard.org/spoken stories.
And keep listening after this episode with Chris, and you'll hear another example of a spoken story. It's a view of the world from a 6-year-old.
Good evening, everybody. I'm sitting down in the corner of Fox's Grove, 30 acres of deciduous woodland here at Hyash Farm. It's just after 4:30 in the afternoon. The roads coming out to Norwich are really busy and quite noisy. I can hear Norwich's southern bypass really clearly as everybody heads home from a day's work in the city. And I'm just listening to the sound way above the trees at the moment. An estimate of around 1,000 or just over jackdaws, a smaller member of the corvid family, and 2,500 at very least rooks with a few carrion crows scattered in amongst them, and they're just circling the woodland about half a mile away, quite a distance away, and they're all still quite high up. And I've chosen a spot in the woodland here that's pretty well whitewashed the floor is. And I secreted myself under a maple tree, which has still got a few leaves on. It's dusk, the light's fading fast, the sun has already set, and it's bedtime. And on the north side of the farm in Arminghall, there's quite a considerable starling roost there in an area of quite ancient woodland, and they're still doing their murmuration, and I could see them as I arrived in a truck and started to walk into this area of woodland. It's nearly a mile away, the two, so we've got starlings one side of the farm, an amazing sight of aerial supremacy compared to the rooks and the jackdaws, which roost communally in this type of woodland here at the farm. And the roost, why I'm here, is it will not be here in about 2 weeks' time. I visit it every year, and usually about the end of November, the whole woodland becomes quiet, it's deserted, a few munkjack barking perhaps in the background, and owls hooting. But the roost then joins a mega roost about 12 miles away to the east of Hyash Farm at somewhere called Buckenham Fen, quite close to the Yare, the River Yare, which flows through Norwich and comes out at Yarmouth, and that is extraordinary sight. I've been there a few times, and there's over 100,000 corvids roosting there, together with a few raven as well, just started to become more visible in Norfolk, although they're really birds of sort of mountainous regions, coastal regions, particularly around the rocky coasts up in Scotland there. But we had one here last week, no less. Anyway, I'm sitting and waiting for the main sort of sound to arrive. But in the meantime, what they do is quite amazing. If I stand away from the woodland, and which I do most evenings, and just watch them flying over the top, they're almost as acrobatic as the starlings. I mean, the starlings do top trump them, they move as one, whereas the rooks are, it's rather like Lancaster bombers compared to Spitfires. The smaller the bird, the more manoeuvrable that they are, but nevertheless it is a sight to behold, and so that's why I'm really lucky. I love sharing pieces of the Norfolk countryside at any time of the day or night when there's something special happening, and this for me is really special. It's a real treat to sit. The woodland floor's a little bit damp now, the weather's turned a lot colder, it's quite seasonal now as we're getting well through November. And just put a few facts right, because years ago there was an old farming adage which sort of described the fate of corn when a farmer went to sow it, and this from centuries ago. Farmer went to sow 4 seeds, one for the rook, one for the crow, one to rot, and one to grow. And really, it's brought crows in there, which are usually quite innocent about stealing grain. They're more interested in carrion. This part of the country we have carrion crows, the hoodie crows with partial white feathers, seen more often north of the Scottish border. They're called hoodies up there, and we just call ours carrion crows. Similar size to the rook. The rook's got the big white patch round the base of its beak. But a scarecrow isn't really anything to do with scaring crows, those sort of models farmers put up in their fields sometimes. That's not to scare crows, it's to scare what's now beginning to come in above my head, the rooks. And of course, another adage as well, an old motto, as the crow flies. Well, crows are pretty antisocial, and they don't really fly in straight lines like rooks do. It's like children coming out of school. Rooks in the morning, they head straight off to school, and in the evening they'll fly quite a distance and come straight back again, usually in a straight line. So as the crow flies, forget that, it's really as the rook flies. And you can hear while I'm talking, if I drop my voice a bit and just be quiet for a second, they're now circling the wood above my head, about 200 feet up now, so beginning to descend into the trees. I moved some of the leaves because I didn't want a pebble-dashed bottom. So I've chosen, I think, the right spot, and they're circling round a mixture of the high-pitched chuck noises, which is the jackdaws, and the much more pleasurable sound of the cawing of the rook. Of course, we've got 2 or 3 villages in the county of Norfolk named after rooks. Rookland or Rockland is an area, and we have 2 Rocklands in Norfolk, and they're named after the roosts or the areas where rooks were frequented years ago. And all over the country there are hundreds, literally hundreds of farms called Rook Farm, Rookery Farm, all sorts of names closely associated with rooks. And they're also called the old village parson, because often rooks nested in churchyards because they weren't often shot, which they still are in some parts of the country at a particular time of year when the young rooks leave the nest. They can't fly, but they kind of clamber about on the branches high up in the canopy. Parents feed them, and well, that's what they're actually called, branches at that time of the year. Used to be shot, particularly here in Norfolk, and then taken by train in the latter years and by stagecoach earlier on to the London markets, where rook pie was quite a delicacy. And of course it's quite a dense red meat. Oh wow, they're now just circling about 25 feet above the trees above me, and all hell's about to break loose because the sky is black with them. I can just see through the canopy above me. The sky's still got a little bit of light left in it. And it's not only a really unusual sight to see birds flying in above you. Normally they're very shy, but I'm wearing almost black clothes, dark green trousers, dark green jumper, and I've got a wide brimmed dark hat on so they can't see my face, because they've got very good eyesight even in this half light. Well, it's less than half light. It's that time of day between daylight hours and complete darkness. We call it dusk, and this is their bedtime. And I love the noise. I always try to imagine what they're saying to each other. It is a form of communication. Sounds like a lot of rabble to us, but it's important to them. It's bonding. Many of them are paired up already, and on sunny days, particularly last week when the weather was a bit warmer, the male jackdaws and rooks were corkscrewing, rather like chuffs do on the western coast of West. Oh, tawny owl just flew past me. I think it stopped in a hawthorn about 30 yards away. I can just faintly see the shadow. Because I'm talking, I don't think it will start calling. Oh, that's nice. Just listen, they're beginning to descend into the trees now. I can see a few of them, just little black shadows, 60, 70 feet up. So the high-pitched ones are the jackdaws, and the more guttural sound is the rook. Have a listen. Exciting time for them, and I shall creep out of this area of woodland shortly, very slowly so as not to disturb them. That's the Norfolk motto. Instead of a scarecrow, I'm a keep crow or a keep rook. And of course, rook is another name for a dishonest person. If you rook somebody, then you've probably taken something from them or tricked them. And rooks are thieves, particularly young rooks. In the rookery, they nest communally, and young rooks, being what young rooks are, like to keep life as easy as possible, a bit like teenagers today, and they will steal sticks from their neighbour's nest. But if they get caught doing that, some of the adults will teach them a lesson and rip their nests to pieces, so they have to go and find their own sticks again. So they will do that, whereas carrion crows are much more solitary, so you can tell them apart. They lack the baggy leg feathers which rooks have, and they lack the big white patch of almost bare skin round the base of the bill. Rooks have quite a long beak, 2.5, 3 inches long, about 60 millimetres long, and they use that for probing, mainly insectivorous. But when you see 300 or 400 rooks on your freshly drilled wheat field, just as it comes through and they steal the little green shoots, then that's what's caused public enemy number 2. Wood pigeons are probably number 1. Rooks come in a close second. Stealing again, you see. So there we are. Right, I'll let them have the last say. A lovely way to start off this week's podcast. Matthew Gudgeon's here in the morning, bright and early. So we'll see what else there is to talk about. Last word to the jackdaws and the rooks.
Chris Skinner's Countryside Podcast with Matthew Gudgeon.
It's a cold and wet morning, proper wintry weather for the first time. Some parts of the country have had snow, and here at High Ash Farm things are looking very autumnal with all the leaves down on the ground as well. And well, to just shelter from the rain, I'm sitting in Chris Skinner's farm truck here, and thank you once again, Chris, for allowing me along. Rat, I don't think likes the weather particularly either, do you?
No, he's whinging and whining away this morning. He just went out into the wild bird seed mix crop beside us and then rapidly came back in. And yes, that's the comment. It's a high-pitched whine. Yes.
6 weeks ago you brought us here, Chris, and
Yes.
told us about an experiment.
I did. It's something that's intrigued me for years. It's a kind of a loophole in stewardship, because farmers are paid annually if they do take one of the options up, which is something called overwinter wild bird seed mix. And I'm a real fan of it here at the farm. We've got 6 areas spread from one side of the farm to the other, and we're by one of the smallest areas here at High Ash. There's 5 acres, 2 hectares. It's got teasels, it's full of barley, which has still got the grains in here, fodder radish, mustard, linseed, and there's a whole variety. Oh, there's one called camelina, which has got a lovely common name. It's called gold of pleasure. And it's a magnet for all the farmland birds here, including the game birds. And that's where my interest lied, because it's legal to shoot through these areas of wild bird seed mix during the shooting season, obviously for partridges, pheasants, woodcock, anything that's in there. And many shoots, farmers are very keen on earning money. You can either let your shoot for so much per acre over the whole farm, or you can run a syndicate yourself where you have various guns that pay for subscriptions. Rat's just seen a tractor arrive on the far side of the field, just to prove he's on my lap. He has to butt into every podcast that we do, doesn't he? Would you be quiet?
A tractor on a farm, Rat. Whatever next.
So the experiment started about 6-7 weeks ago, and the idea was to copy what would happen on a normal shoot. And so I let a bird scarer off, and that's not Rat barking in the background. Quite a loud bang at 9 o'clock in the morning, when the general time when a farm shoot would start. And then another one at 9:15, and the last one at 9:30. So it's over a half-hour period. And so that was the whole idea. Rat, would you be quiet? And so I then monitored what birds are here compared to the other areas on the farm, and there's a considerable total area. It's 40 hectares, which is about 100 acres, and obviously I received stewardship payment for that. But as a farmer, you kind of want to do the very best that you can for the wildlife. I tell you what, I'm going to shut that door and close the window, and that won't make him come in your side, but that'll be bad luck. Yes, right, he's outside. That sorted him out. And so the results as the weeks went on was quite dramatic. As I said, it's a non-scientific experiment, but I wanted to see the results for myself, as what would normally happen on many farms which have shoots. So I'll tell you what, if I grab him on my lap...
Came in like a bullet, didn't he?
And then I'd try and muzzle him a little bit, very gently with my hand. That should prevent the worst of the barking. Right, so as I said, the results were dramatic. And when I brought you here at the beginning experiment, we counted at least 50 goldfinches just on the corner close to where we're sitting. If you remember, they were on the teasels and feeding on the thistles here, which were still in flower. There were still odd peacock butterflies about, but the effect on the bird population, remember, birds are very mobile. They don't like being disturbed. It was really like putting bird scarer here just for half an hour once a week, and the result has astonished me. We're looking over 5 acres of fantastic wild bird food. It's a reservoir there. I've stopped the experiment now this last Saturday, and the result is, as you can see, I mean, it speaks for itself.
There's nothing there, is there?
It's a desert, yes. And
the food's there, but no birds.
The food is there, no birds. And so it shows the effect that unintentional human intervention can have when you're trying to work with nature and encourage farmland birds. This area is surrounded by woodland on 2 sides and large hedgerows at the bottom of the field as well, which is fantastic habitat for linnets and yellowhammers. And they were here, but they're not now, because they are mobile, as all birds are, and they've chosen to be on the other side of the farm now, where the areas of overwinter wild bird seed mix remain absolutely undisturbed. And there's some amazing flocks of birds. So it just shows one change I would like in the legislation, if you like, is that if you grow overwinter wild bird seed mix, you're a farmer or an estate owner running a shoot, then please, we need to sort of play the game properly and fairly. It's public money for public goods, and the public goods shouldn't all be in the hands of the farmer or the shooting estate owner or the syndicate owner. It's just pure, simple common sense. But in this world, just sometimes common sense is the least common sense.
He's enjoying himself now.
He's being squeezed. Rat, what do you think?
He's ignoring us now.
He's ignoring us. Right, well, you've got a little treat now, as it's a wet morning. I've just started the bird hides across the farm, start feeding them again in the middle of November. So the first one's been going just over a week now, and we're going to have a quick sit in there. It's a wet morning. The rain is really welcome here at the farm. This is the first proper rain we've had, and the first hint of frost as well. I mean, after all, we're cruising through November now, and this is just seasonal, just what the doctor ordered.
In we come. Rat's found his seat. Here we are. Sitting here on our bench here, Chris, and we have to wait a little while, of course, but it's the time of the year the birds start getting hungry.
Yes, Matthew, this is our woodland bird hide here at High Ash Farm. I'm a real fan of hides for getting really close to wildlife, and we've just come in. Is one-way glass, and there's a little round circle in the middle of one of the windows so that you can take photographs through, and there's a selection of 4 feeders out there, and the one on the right is mixed grain, and these are mega feeders. They're 1 metre long, and each feeder's got 9 ports on it, and I made them myself, and the 3 ports at the back are all blanked off because birds have a clever trick of not being wanted seen, so when they come and feed they'll generally sit on the far side of the feeders, particularly birds like nuthatches. And so the next feeder, the one dead in front of us, is sunflowers still with the husks on. Then we've got peanuts, and the last one at the moment there is fat balls. And we'd hardly sat down, and the first woodland bird, a very, very common one, has arrived and is flitting to and fro. And that's a great tit, Paris major.
Is that a blue tit as well?
Yes, there's a blue tit there too, just come in.
I can see them lining up like a
Yes.
holding pattern. There's
Yes,
3 or
it
4
is.
in the
And
hedge.
It's because these 2 chunking great men and a dog. I mean, what more could you want to scare birds? We turned into crow scarers this morning, or scarecrows, just when we came in, but we're just sitting quietly and we'll wait. Now, that's a really interesting one just came, and another one. They're called coal tits. Now spelt C-O-A-L, coal tit, but originally C-O-L-E, coal tit, and it's to do with the black, where the black meets the white on the side of the face. And all of those ones so far are whole nesting birds. So blue tits, great tits galore there now coming in, and the coal tit as well. So if you're feeding your garden birds, what we're seeing is pretty well what you would see in your garden. But out in a woodland here at the farm, we will see some real woodland specialists. I don't know if we will this morning. A, it's pouring with rain. B, we've only been feeding these feeders for a week now, so we're just beginning to, if you like, magnetise this area of woodland. So anything can come in. We might be lucky and see one of my favourites, which is a nuthatch. And again, that bird's name has changed. It was originally called a nuthack because of the habit of finding things like acorns and hazelnuts and putting them in a cleft in a stick and then using their very sharp dagger-like beak to open up. Right, it's just beginning to get going. You don't know which way to look now.
Do you think we'd see a tree creeper here?
It is possible, but not on the feeders. We've got lots of tree creepers. It's been a really, really good year for them. And on the High Ash Farm website, I did manage to capture a video. It would be about in July, so it's about podcast 45 or something like that. And I got a lovely video of them actually going in and out of a hole on a tree. And don't forget, last week's podcast, we mentioned my accidental filming of a badger latrine, and that's now been posted up, so you'll be able to enjoy my accident of what I thought was filming badgers going to be eating chestnuts, and I actually caught them all at their toilet. I didn't realise. That was a little bit embarrassing.
Very indiscreet of you.
Yes. Yes.
I can hear a robin. A robin will come muscling in any second, I think.
Yes, there is one here, and he's or she, very difficult to tell the sexes apart with robins, has taken over ownership of this piece of territory. And that's quite usual in the bird world. Missel thrushes will do it again. They will take over a whole tree, as they have done in the farmyard. One missel thrush, a male, has taken over the yew tree in the centre of the farm, and anybody, including rat, that goes too close to the tree gets attacked. It sounds like a football rattle, and that's true of many birds, and they all make different sounds. And some of these birds that are visiting the feeders in front of us make a whole variety of different sounds, and great tit is a specialist in that. So if you're walking through woodland and you hear a sound and you don't quite know what it is, it's likely to be a great tit. They're real masters of deception, because if it makes different calls, any other great tits, particularly at the beginning of the mating season, from sort of January onwards, if you learn the art of using your call in different ways, then any other male great tits in the area will think, oh, there's several here, so I won't bother to try and challenge any of the owners of the territory, and they move off. Now, that great tit has just come in, has a very large, very wide black stripe down the centre of the breast, and that signifies it's a male great. There it is, just come back again. It's as wide as a pencil itself, with the wooden, the whole pencil width, and it goes right up as far as the tail. And if we had a female great tit come in, although it looks superficially similar, that black stripe is like a pencil line down the middle of the breast. So that's how you can tell the sexes of great tits. Anyway, there's a constant flow of them, different birds coming in. But remember, we've only just sat down. We haven't been here 5 minutes yet. And the shy birds, things like great spotted woodpecker, obviously the nuthatch, they're very cautious in their lifestyle and their life habits. They're very secretive, although a lot of large areas of woodland like this we're sitting in, Fox's Grove here at Caistus and Edmund, supports 2 or 3 pairs of nuthatches. I love the scientific name Sitta europinus, and it's also known as the plastering bird, because although they will use nest boxes, what's that? Oh, it's a blackbird just coming in, just in the back there. Continental blackbird with a yellow beak rather than an orange beak. It's just flown off. So, yeah, absolutely wonderful. So the nuthatch is, I think, pretty well unique among British birds. In it can go up trees with ease, even smoothed bark trees like beech, and down trees as well, and round the other side of the tree if anybody's about and you can't see them. Oh, there it was. Look at that. This is Skinner magic for you.
Right on cue, a nuthatch.
And so they're called the plastering bird. As I get so excited, I forget where I am, you know. And what they do is they get mud and plaster the hole. Let's say it was a great spotted woodpecker's nest hole from last year, 50 mil, 2-inch diameter hole. They'll make it to about 1.25 inches, about 30 mil or just over 30 mil, and they use mud. And they gather mud and plaster it around till the hole is exactly the right size for them to come in. But you just saw, we got a quick glimpse of one then. They're very fast. Although the feeder's in front of us and the hide is kind of secreted in some quite dense shrubbery all round it, birds still just have to fly a yard or so to get to the feeders, and they're always vulnerable when they're feeding. So they're very alert, so often they'll find some food, go back into the shrubbery to eat it, to take the kernels off the black sunflower seeds. But that was a lovely sort of sight. And they're really, you'd think they're woodpeckers and related to woodpeckers in some way or other. They've got very short, stiff tail feathers, but they don't use those for feeding. They have normal feet, so they've got 3 toes facing forwards and 1 toe facing backwards, whereas with woodpeckers, their feet have adapted. Wow, it's really got going now.
It's like an aviary now, Chris, isn't it?
We're up to
8 or 9, 10.
10 at a time coming now. Yes, so exactly, that's a good description. But that's what you do. So one of the commonest questions I get at this time of the year, and we'll go to our questions shortly when we come out of this hide, is mid-November, Chris. Like, we've put food out in our garden, and we live in a kind of urban, suburban area or some have got farmland around, and I just haven't seen that many birds yet. But it happens at this time every year. Remember, the bonanza of food is still fully out in the Norfolk countryside where we are, and all over the UK too. So there's always plenty of food still easily available. We've not had snow yet. We've not had really hard frosts yet. And so the birds can access the food. Things like beech trees produce beech mast, which falls on the ground, and that's a real favourite for the great tits. Blue tits will also eat them. And that's really exciting time of the year coming up if you like nature and you like being close to wildlife like we're sitting here. Then it's a brilliant way, and it's great for children as well. It just starts a seed off of young children particularly getting interested in birds, and then their life history and where they spend the night when we're all tucked up in bed and the temperatures and the wind's blowing outside. So
we're only a few feet away from this marvellous display of blue tits, great tits, coal tits, and we even saw that bird you were talking about as well, the plastery bird.
Yes, these nuthatch, beautiful little birds, and the colours on them, particularly the nuthatch, the male nuthatch, it's almost salmon pink on the breast, and this dagger-like beak with a black line going through the eye towards the back of the head, and then I can't hardly describe the colour on the back of the nuthatch. It's a kind of battleship grey-blue colour. Really, really classy bird, and very, very colourful.
We saw him for about 5 seconds there.
They're sharp, gudgeon. They really are. Yes, that's what we call them in the countryside. They don't hang about.
What I love about this, though, is we're seeing all these birds 10 at a time here, out different species as well. As soon as you open that door, we walk outside just a few feet,
yes,
they'll be gone.
Even
as if they weren't there.
Even in an environment like this where the birds here don't see many people, they see deer, foxes, lots of other animals coming in, but they're still very shy of humans, even on a farm like this that looks after them, because they have to be. One mistake out there, and there are creatures out there that think a great tit or a blue tit or that nuthatch is a tasty morsel for breakfast, and they can just wipe them up in a millisecond. And once you've had 1 or 2 near misses of a sparrowhawk with its legs outstretched just going past your feathers, you don't make that same mistake twice.
It went quiet for a second, didn't it?
Yes.
Maybe there was a sparrowhawk.
Yes, exactly that. So they have to be alert all the time, really, even in the hours of darkness when they're roosting. And there's some members of the tit family. We've looked at blue tits here, great tits, coal tits. There's long-tailed tits, which have yet to arrive on the fat ball feeders. They have just started coming, but there are lots of bird species which are really missing here. When I first put this hide here about 20 years ago, we had what are called brown tits here. There's 2 species, the willow tit and the marsh tit, and there was quite good numbers of both those species, and during that last 20-year period they have completely disappeared from this area of woodland. But we have got lesser spot woodpeckers here. That's a red letter day.
I love coming in here. It's terrific. Every time it's different, isn't it? Wonderful. Thanks for taking us into your hide here.
Yeah, well, we're starting the year. I'll bring you in here again, all being well, around about Christmas time, towards the end of the year, and you won't know which way to look by then.
The ducks at High Ash Farm going in to roost for an evening. Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, and if you've been enjoying our countryside podcasts, we've got a small favour to ask.
Yes, Matthew. What we're going to do is to ask for a small donation to help run the podcast, and any surplus goes for conservation at High Ash Farm here. And so it's really important. We both love to keep the podcast going, and that duck agrees with me, I think.
Well, it's straightforward to donate. You can make a one-off donation or set up a small monthly contribution, and the address is highashfarm.com/podcast.
We're hugely grateful for any support. It means we can keep sharing the stories of the countryside, which I love doing each week, but it's that small amount of costs we need to cover. So thank you very much in advance.
Still raining to some degree. It feels cold as well. It's still a beautiful sight though. The leaves that are left on the trees, lovely colour. And we've retreated to the farm truck, haven't we, Chris? Because I've got a handful here, and quite a big handful of the emails that you send to us each week, and we always have a good chuckle and enjoy them, don't we?
Yes, it's always very gratifying to sort of share the knowledge of a Norfolk farmer, and with what everybody's sort of beginning to discover in their own patches, and I just love it. So they're always very, very welcome.
Well, from Old England here to New England, and Kathy McKeough, who says, several months ago I sent a question about a late brood of ducklings on the salt marsh, Old Lyme, Connecticut. I'm happy to report that all 4 survived and they thrived. Their mother did a good job.
Yes, ducks particularly are really good mums. They seem to have this sort of inbuilt instinct to look after their youngsters, and although late broods, they usually occur when the first brood has been predated, or for some reason none of them hatched. It can be for a variety of reasons, but they will often go for a second nesting attempt. The swallows at the farm here will go for 2 or even 3 nesting attempts. Mallard ducks, quite common here in the UK, will do the same if the first brood is lost, and so it really puts the youngsters at risk because they have down on them for the first month or so of their life, and they can't cope with prolonged wet or cold conditions. Their little insects that they eat on the surface of water are not present generally when the weather gets colder, so they're very much at risk from 100% mortality. That would have been all 4 of those, but if you get clement weather at a particular time of year, which often happens in September and early October, they get large enough just to feather up properly, and then those youngsters can cope with the cold. So brilliant done, and well done, and good observation as well.
And this is from the Hickmores, who live in Hampshire. Hilary and Stephen, greetings to you. They're telling us about the efforts they're making with their 3/4 of an acre garden, with creating a variety of habitats for different species. And they say, we planted overwinter birdseed mix on a plot sized 5 metres by 25 metres for the first time in the spring, hoping to help the declining population of yellowhammers and thrushes. But they ask, can such a small plot make any difference in an intensively farmed farmed area which doesn't leave any overwinter stubble. There's a neighbour a mile away who has sown a larger area of overwinter birdseed mix at the same time, and a National Trust-owned farm that is rewilding an area about 3 miles away. So, I mean, that's a fair distance, both of those places.
Yes, but remember from our earlier part of this week's podcast, birds are very, very mobile, so they can move huge distances, particularly if the weather's inclement or they discover a food source and one member of the species finds the food source and it attracts others. Birds of a feather kind of flock together. So a small area of overwinter wild bird seed mix, although it might have some value, it would get exhausted very, very quickly. So here at the farm, our aim is to supply overwinter wild bird food throughout the season, right through the Hungry Gap until March or even early April next year, 2026. So what I'd suggest there is substitute the overwinter wild bird seed mix with bird feeders in the garden, and then concentrate as much of the area as you can into pollen and nectar area as well, growing a whole variety of plants which provide pollen and nectar for our declining bee species, and that can also attract birds in there. Remember, you've got farmland all around you there by the sound of it, and so although the local farmer might not leave overwinter stubble after he's combined his crops, some of the birds you're trying to attract there are pretty well strictly farmland birds like yellowhammer in particular, linnets as well. There are several species which don't really like coming into close contact with humans and so that's much more value. So as I've just done in the woodland beside us, there are feeders there, and that magnetises an area much easier, and you can keep the consistent supply of food going through the winter months, which is the important part of it all.
Here's a photograph of fungi. The fungi on the side of a tree by the looks of it from the photograph, with quite a few of them here with the nibbles out of the side. Anyway, this is from Deborah Dunseith of Old Buckenham, which is not far from Chris's farm. I'd be grateful if you could please identify this growing at the base of my willow tree. Is it honey fungus? And if so, is my willow doomed?
Oh dear.
Doomed.
Well, first of all, I thought it was a species called soapy scaly cap, but I looked very carefully and it's a very close relation, and it's actually called shaggy scaly cap. So it is quite a common species. It grows, in this particular case, right down low at the bottom of a willow tree. Now, it says, am I likely to use the willow tree? But I think the damage has already been done, and that's why the fungus is there. And when you look closely at the photograph, there's a line in the tree which is either a wound caused by strimming or by a lawnmower. And if you injure the tree through the bark, that allows the fungal spores of this particular species. It's not a hugely invasive species. It feeds on dead wood, so not on the living part of the tree. And so shaggy scaly cap, very common. Now you can identify it yourself with your nose, because it's one of those fungi that have got a really distinctive smell, and it smells of radish. So it's quite pungent, it's quite kind of hot smell on the nose, and so if you scratch it with your fingernail and the air's not moving, you're not in a windy condition, and you just get a waft of it, if it smells like that, that actually proves the identification. But it's such a lovely fungus. It's kind of got little scales all round in a circle over the top of the fungal body. It's usually about 4 inches wide maximum, about 100 mil. The cap, and the stalk, or the stipe as it's properly called, is usually about 150 mil at the tallest, but usually found on dead or dying wood, and there's a very distinct injury of the tree across here. Can you see that?
I can, and
Yes.
something's been having a go at this
Yes,
as well.
yes, animals will eat it. It's classed as non-edible because of the very strong taste. So whilst it isn't strictly a poisonous species, it's not edible because of the horrible taste.
But it's not quite as fatal to a tree then as the aforementioned honey fungus.
No, that's right. That's really invasive, and that will attack living trees. And honey fungus got lots of names. So the other one that is commonly called is bootlace fungus because of the black rhizomorphs that go up just under the bark on the tree, between the bark and the heartwood, and they will go right up the tree, and then you'll have fruiting bodies of honey fungus coming out at any point on the tree, and it will kill living trees. Nothing you can do. You can't spray the tree with a fungicide or inject the tree or anything once the honey fungus has taken root. And not only that, when you cut the stump off and perhaps cover it with soil to save you taking the rest of the stump out, saves a lot of hard work. In future years, you'll find little rings of honey fungus still feeding on the dead and rotting wood down in the ground. So it's a kind of dual purpose fungi that attacks living trees and feeds off the dead wood as well.
Well, it's time to call a halt to another Countryside podcast. You can always send your messages and questions to chris@countryside.podcast.co.uk. We're heading back now, though, to the farmyard, aren't we? Where I expect you've got a roaring fire going on, chestnuts roasting and all sorts of things there.
I might treat you to a coffee if you're very, very lucky. The generosity knows no bounds.
This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris.
Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. Our new service, Spoken Stories, is an incredible experience where we record the stories and voice of your loved one, which you can then hold on to forever.
It makes for an incredible gift, and anyone can make one. Take a listen to this. It beautifully captures the thoughts and feelings of life from a 6-year-old's perspective.
I'm 6 years old and I love running around. I can run very, very fast, but I'm even faster on my bike. That's why I love biking. It makes me feel energetic. And also, I bike loads of places. I like doing sports like dodgeball. The people that are in charge in the world, well, I think that there should be no one in charge at all. So everyone's in charge. So there's no person that's in charge. So everyone is a bit more free. That's what I think. Well, what I try to change at the moment is global warming. It's when us humans litter, destroy the planet and all its nature. That's global warming. It makes me feel sad. And also, if us humans keep doing that, it could destroy the whole planet Earth, and then all of the human beings will be destroyed. I try to stop global warming, and also in my coat pocket I have a bit of Kit Kat litter I found on the floor once. I love the planet more than anything. Grown-ups should be stopping global warming, because grown-ups are more powerful than kids. But if kids can be more powerful than grown-ups, kids and grown-ups can work together and do it. kids should be able to do the same things as grown-ups. They should have more rights. Well, I love myself because that I believe in a lot of things. That's what I love about myself. I like being a kid, but because when I'm a grown-up, I'm going to have my own kids because that's what I want. And also, I'm a bit worried to have kids, and I'm still gonna be a kid for like a long time. So I'm glad that's actually gonna happen. I'm glad I'm gonna stay a kid for a long time. I'm gonna have kids because I want to know what it feels like to be a parent. I'm gonna be a good parent.
Isn't that just gorgeous? If you'd like to find out more about recording a spoken story of your own, or you'd like to buy this as a present for someone, take a look at our website, www.soundyard.org/spoken stories, and take advantage of our introductory offer. Alternatively, you can get in touch via email hello@soundyard.org.
And if the internet isn't an option, you can leave a message with your details on our landline number. It's 01603 273 899, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.